Welcome into the Dog Check Podcast, part of the Believe Network of podcasts, and of course, airing weekly on Bally Sports Cleveland. Spencer German here with you. I'm your host as always, and this week I'm pleased to be joined a repeat guest for us who we love having on every single time, Matt Sims, former NFL quarterback, joining us on the show. Matt, I'm sure you're excited for the season, man. It's just around the corner. It feels like it snuck up on us, really. I'm never ready for summer to end. And the next thing you know, in the blink of an eye, here's football season and my life's pretty much over because I'm busy and consumed by
that. Yeah. I mean, all of our loved ones, our wives, our family members, aunts, uncles, it's been great. And goodbye, because on the weekends now, it's over, man. We're locked into football season. It's exciting. It really is it's Groundhog Year. You know, it's not Groundhog Day, it's Groundhog Year, because every year I feel like we have that same feeling, right? It's just like, man, summer went fast. It really, picked up really quickly. But nonetheless, I'm excited. A lot of great storylines in the NFL this year. And of course, the most special ones are the ones that we aren't expecting that just seem to pop up. And looking forward to see what those are this season.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned all the family members are saying goodbye to. Yeah, I always see those memes every year of the husband giving his wife a letter that's like, "Hey, just letting you know, I need time on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, some Saturdays." It's funny every single year. It gets me.
Now Christmas, the NFL. I mean, come on, man, just give us one day off. Well, I guess they're giving us Tuesday, right?
I say the same thing, Matt.
Yeah.
I know you have basketball on the NBA plays on Christmas and Thanksgiving's kind of the football holiday.
Yeah.
But I just want every now and then I just want one holiday where I don't have to think about football. I love football, no. Don't get me wrong, but just every now and then, just a couple days here or there where I can just focus on family would be nice,
I'm totally with you, man. And there's always, of course, FOMO involved with that too, where it's I'm not going to watch this matchup because I don't give a damn about these two teams. And I'm like, let me just see, just to make sure I'm not missing anything, Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. The next thing you know, you watch all 3 hours of the game.
That's right.
So we know this week is a big one in the NFL because we're leading up to week 1 still, but all the teams required to cut their rosters down to 53 players and sort of figure out what that first version of that roster is going to look like. We know there can be other tweaks made here before the season starts, but I'm curious from your standpoint, Matt, what is it like those 24 to 48 hours from when the last preseason game ends? And then, there's some conversations going on and you may or may not be with the team, whatever. Just what's that like from the player side of it?
I mean, for me, I guess the first time around, it was you don't want that call obviously to happen. Fortunately and unfortunately for me, I got that call maybe 9 or 10 times. So I got very comfortable with it. And, even in one sense, my last or second to last one in Atlanta, I had played well in my second to last one in Atlanta. I had played well in the preseason. I really thought that I was capable of being someone that was on the roster, but Dan Quinn just loves himself some defensive players, and he can't get enough of those guys. But I knew that I was going to get cut, or I knew I was a high favorite to be cut. And I got that call early the next morning after the last preseason game. And they're like, hey, and I'm like, I know I'll be in with my playbook. I'll be in there in about an hour. Don't give me the spiel. I know the deal, and he goes, all right, great. That was easy. We'll see you in a little, and it's an unfortunate, painful part of the game. It's, the business aspect of it. And, sometimes it's justifiable and other times, there really is no explanation other than that you're just, kind of the odd man out depending on what the rosters really need for that given time. So that's where injuries are always huge. And then that first cut really just, it's the deepest cut, as they say, but it's still an ongoing process that even when you're on the team, that's just a continuous battle that you have to continue to fight through no matter what, because it really can happen, at any given notice. So it really never ends, that drive to continue to improve no matter what.
While we're here, I want to ask this because, we hear all the time the phrase football is a business, and it's easy for somebody like me who never played in the league and is just, somebody who's breaking down the game, talking about the game, whatever, to say that. And be like, oh, it's just a business. It is what it is. But for somebody like you who played and other players, it's personal. You work your life to get to that level. How do you cope with that? Because I'm just picturing or envisioning when I miss out on a job or I go interview for a job and I don't get it, and this is the lamest terms I can put it in just an average
No,
person.
don't say that. Don't say
Well,
that.
no, I just mean like for me, like I'm just I'm not I can't compare to that level of like you're physically competing for a sport and then you get told no. But how do you sort of decipher and not take it personal when that happens? Because I'm sure like the first time you do take it a little bit personal. So how do you adjust to that side of it? Because I again, it's an easy thing for us to throw out there, but I feel like it's probably not that easy for you guys in the moment sometimes to just be like, hey, it's just a business. It's okay because it means something to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tagline that we throw around, and we throw it around just because everyone else is too. But yeah, every time that I got cut, it was personal. Every time that I sat down in some management office's chair, and they were like, "Oh, it's not personal," I was like, "Well, yeah, it is. It's my life, man." But okay,
Right, right.
and I had the courage later on in my career too to kind of say those things directly to those people, which probably didn't play in my favor either. But at that point, I was like, what do I care? I got to be, who I am and be authentic. And, it really doesn't matter what it is, what line of work that you're in, right? If you're really passionate about it, if you spent, almost the majority of your life, pursuing a certain goal and then being denied that goal, of course, there are going to be, some emotions and some pain and some, some questioning too, some real deep reflecting on just, all right, what could I have done better? Where should I improve? Is it me? Is it them? And all that kind of stuff. And, the biggest thing that I think I really experienced too was, early on, I was always kind of like, oh, I'm blaming the situation. I'm blaming them. I put the blame on other people. And I think it really served me greatly as I continued to kind of mature and, get more experience of just, doing that inward reflecting and just saying, hey, like this was the situation. I controlled what I could control. When I had those controllables and I did well and I was prepared, I did my job, and that's really all I can do. And that's something that is clearly easier said than done, because at the end of the day, we are all human beings. And but mastering those things and kind of going through them are really important. And fortunately too, I've been able to reflect on those things later in life too. I feel like that have helped me be a better husband, a better father, and a better coach too as well for all the kids that I coach nowadays.
That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate the perspective on that because it's we talk about it all the time. We sort of put it in this context of like, yeah, it's just another day. It's whatever. Like guys get it, but I understand from a personal standpoint for you guys as the guys going through it, it's not that easy. So I appreciate that you shine some light on that for us and kind of give us some perspective on it. Speaking of,
I've got experience.
Yeah, for sure. From the Browns' perspective, one guy we know certainly is making the roster is obviously quarterback Deshaun Watson. He didn't play on Saturday in this last preseason game. Didn't play in the entire preseason. He did participate in the joint practices that they did with the Vikings there. Teams and players, and I asked people within the Browns organization about this when I was out there for the week of joint practices about like, do they get as much out of those as they do a preseason game? The consensus seems to be yes. Like a lot of people are saying like, we get as much, if not more out of these. So does the preseason matter as much as it used to? Does it still matter? Is it a case by case basis? What's your sort of thought on whether or not it matters for a guy to get those reps in a situation like that?
Yeah, I mean, I really do think that the preseason matters. I really will have a tough time, of anyone really convincing me otherwise, and really partly because I am, one of those perfect examples of why the preseason matters. I mean, I was cut 2 different times, or benched, excuse me, 2 different times in college. I really was a journeyman throughout college and struggled to kind of find my footing. And the NFL was kind of that clean slate where, everyone knew I had the talent. They knew that I had the ability to do it. Now they were just seeing if I could actually kind of put it together in, these short windows of OTAs and camps. And, those camps and really the game specifically solidify that, like, I was someone worth looking into and giving more reps and opportunity to build their career into, and, hopefully, groom me into being a really solid backup, or, fortunately, maybe getting lucky and becoming a starter like some guys do. And, I'm always going to be under the thought of just preseason games are important. They're important for many reasons. One, there's a lot of guys out there that practice really well and it looks really good and all that kind of stuff. But then like there is a difference between the game and then in the practice, right? Going through those steps and the procedure of that. right? Putting it all together when it's live out there and the coaches aren't standing 10 feet behind you, telling you where to line up or what to do and all that kind of stuff. So you really do find out a lot about the individuals. And it's just meaningful reps, I think, for a lot of players too, that, typically aren't even getting some of those reps in practice as well. And that's the biggest thing. A lot of the guys that you are seeing in the preseason, they are getting a ton of reps live right in front of you, because during the week, they really aren't getting probably that many reps consistently down in and down out. So I really, think that the preseason is important. The joint practices are great too. Of course, those are awesome. The only problem is that all that kind of stays in house typically. So I'm all for the joint practices. Let's just put it on TV a little bit more, just to shine some light on some guys that really are doing some things and making, a presence known on the practice field more consistently than maybe people think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes a thing here in the future, where if they're adding an 18th game, they cut the preseason some more. Maybe they start televising a joint practice, a day of joint practice or something like that. But
right.
It seems like that kind of seems to be the direction a lot of these teams are trending. So in relation to Deshaun specifically, how much do you think he should have played in the preseason? Because I see both sides of it, where if you're Kevin Stefanski and you're the Browns, you're like, listen, we just got this guy back from this shoulder situation. We don't want to put him in harm's way. They're having some issues right now on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Their left tackle's been banged up. And so they're kind of weighing what makes sense from their standpoint. They got to protect their asset there.
Right.
But at the same time, I think I know that Browns fans wanted to see him play. And there's got to be some benefit to him playing at least a little bit. So what say you on the Deshaun Watson situation specifically, and whether or not he should have played?
Yeah, I mean, it is really unique. I think the biggest thing that you mentioned there, and why the Browns ultimately did not play him, was just because of previous injury, right? And then also, too, just the injuries on the offensive line, and not really being able to feel super comfortable with securing the fact that he's going to be well protected, whether it was a drive or two. Ideally, though, I come from like the old school mindset that just like, I think it is good for the veterans to get out there and play a little bit, right? Just to get a little feel for the game, the feel for the speed of it, just go through the procedure of just how it goes, out there in the huddle on your own. I think those are huge. Now, hey, when you're Aaron Rodgers and you're 40 years old and you've been an MVP, 10 million times over and all that kind of stuff, like, all right, yeah, you can sit out, but, then you got to play really sharp, like to start. And even Aaron, held the football on the fourth play of the game in the first game last year, and took a sack on a play that, he typically should get the football out in rhythm. So, it really doesn't matter, right, for some of these guys, because there are going to be those growing pains early on in the season with just the game speed versus the practice speed, and then just execution and, the reality of actually being hit, and I think a lot of people kind of forget that, like, oh yeah, I'm playing game speed. And it's like, yeah, but people are running by you, not through you. And that's the difference. So it's important.
Matt Sims joining us on the show this week. Appreciate his presence. He, of course, is a former NFL quarterback, also co-host with his dad of the Sims Complete podcast. Him and Phil Sims, obviously, on that, and we are grateful to have him on the show. It's the Dog Check podcast, part of the Believe Network of podcasts, and here weekly on Bally Sports Cleveland. So Mike Sando of The Athletic, he puts out every year his quarterback tiers and rankings. I know this is like a big ritual for people in the media like us. We like to check out like where they all kind of fall into place. And whether it's Mike Sando or not, we love a good quarterback ranking. Right. And so he has Deshaun Watson coming in at 18th overall, which I actually think is, from a standpoint for like Browns fans, I think that's pretty respectable, considering there's been some other lists where he's like near the bottom of the league and in the mid-20s and all that. So,
right.
But some of the evidence that he has here, the information that he has here, he includes quotes from NFL execs, and one of those is, he's better in the pocket than he's given credit for, but he's always slow to go through his progressions. I think that's something that we've seen with Deshaun over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. A lot of the stuff that he did in Houston was a lot of designed RPOs and movement plays that were made for him. I think that sort of points to why the Browns changed the offense this year and bringing Ken Dorsey and changed some things up. And then the one quote that I think really stands out, this one was an anonymous, I know you love that, an anonymous offensive coach who said that he wonders if Deshaun loves the game enough. He should be way better than what he's shown so far. I want to know, like, is this a consensus thing from other people on the outside looking in? Like, do they question whether or not Deshaun loves the game? Because I'm going to be honest, like, up until I read that today and I started thinking about it more, and you got, an NFL person clearly talking about it, I didn't really question that with him. That was the one thing I wouldn't question with Deshaun. Like, I think about last year, first time he had the shoulder injury early in the season, he admitted that he rushed back to try to play in that Colts game, and then he probably shouldn't have done that. There's been instances throughout his career, both in college and the NFL, where he's also played through injury and these different things. Like, I've always kind of felt he's a guy that loves the game and is giving it his all. But now, you see something like this, it puts a little bit of doubt in your mind. So is that something you think other people feel about Deshaun in terms of him not loving the game?
I wouldn't say that I really have heard people say that specifically, where it just, he's not passionate enough about it. He doesn't work hard enough about it, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think really what this is coming from, or what it comes down to for just Deshaun specifically, is just, this is a player that was out of football for an entire year. And not only that, but like was, walking the walk of shame, right, for an extended period of time. And I think those things really took a toll on him mentally, and probably because of that being so, mentally taxing, ultimately physically. I'm sure there were some tough days for him to focus on the game of football when, some of the off the field things that he did, have been brought to surface. So it's a tricky situation, and the quarterback position is, the hardest position in all of sports. There's a lot of things that go into it. Deshaun has absolutely not lived up to the expectations that we have put on, right, for this young man and for the amount of money that the Browns are paying him. So this really is a big year for Deshaun. And, I'm sure the dog pound management, all that, this is really the year for him to kind of put it all together. And if not, it's only just going to be a matter of really when those two kind of part ways, because, we just don't have any more patience, I feel like, for the quarterback position and to people to work through things. And you see how quick it is for even rookie quarterbacks. And, for Deshaun and his unique situation, time is running out. So it's going to be a big year for him. Believe in Kevin Stefanski, though. I think he is an unbelievable offensive mind, and I think he will do and make the proper adjustments to make sure that Deshaun is more comfortable this year than he's ever been in this offense and doing the things that he does at the highest level.
Yeah, you can certainly get chewed up and spit out pretty quickly at that position, especially in the NFL. And it's no rest for the weary. They want to see you succeed immediately, and that's the truth, man, for sure.
And no more anonymous sources, man. You can't quote. It could have been my mother that said that, for all we know. So, if you're going to be quoted in the paper nowadays or whatever, like you got to put your name to it. No more anonymous stuff. At the day and age that we live in now, you got to put your name on something. So whoever this anonymous source is, appreciate your insight, but I don't even know if you're a real person.
I like that. A little fiery about it. And
come on, listen, man. Yeah.
I mean, people have problems with that all the time. I get it. We see that
schoolyard,
stuff,
man.
Yeah,
that's schoolyard.
We see that stuff come up a lot, especially like around draft time, right? Where it's like an anonymous NFL executive says this, so you never know.
Never know.
So it's tough, but I like where you're going with that. We know Deshaun is the big question mark on this team in terms of how far they can go. What other questions do you have about the Browns? And then on the flip side of that, maybe what's something that you feel like supremely confident they're going to be good at this year, whether it's like an overarching side of the ball or like a position specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think really the Cleveland Browns are probably one of the top 6 or 7 rosters in the NFL, especially when healthy. And really it's just unfortunate for them too that they're in the toughest division in all of football at the same time. So it really is kind of just like, can you get through, that gauntlet of a division somewhat healthy, as we mentioned earlier, right?
And a gauntlet of an AFC too, to be honest. Like the AFC is a gauntlet too.
Absolutely. You're exactly right. So it's just like, and just all the quarterbacks that are in the league too, just that are in the AFC specifically, that are so good, so just can they survive, avoid the injury bug? And then really, I would say, defense, maybe not playing so much man-to-man coverage in like key situations, but I think was like very beneficial to them at times when they were at home in their stadium with crowd noise and all that kind of stuff. A lot of man-to-man coverage late in the year, especially against the Houston Texans, I feel like really ultimately was the reason why they got exploited defensively continuously. And especially with some of the looks that Schwartz is running, like it's just difficult to line up that consistently and play man against some of these more talented skill groups in the NFL. And the other really thing is just like this skill group offensively, for the Browns, just it has to come through. It has to be more explosive offensively. And we saw that too. We saw, bits of it from Joe Flacco and what he was able to do in that offense. And now that really is what I think Deshaun has to do. He has to develop that downfield passing attack that Stefanski, I think, really is known for and can really do a great job of developing those plays for his quarterbacks. And now it really is just him executing it and hitting some of those. When he was healthy, he missed a lot of easy throws early on in the year. And that was disappointing, especially for a player of his caliber and his talent. So that'll be the biggest thing, I think, for him, and why, again, he's going to have to do this all for the first time live, game one, rep one, and just find that groove. But luckily, they have a really talented skill group, and hopefully they can get everybody involved and really, start to push the offense.
As you alluded to, arguably the toughest division in football is that AFC North with the Browns in it. Are the Ravens, as the defending champs of the division, the team to beat in this division, or you looking somewhere else? Bengals getting Joe Burrow back, Steelers maybe upgrading the quarterback position. Maybe it's the Browns. Who do you think is the team to beat in that division?
Yeah, I mean, I know the Steelers are always going to be a tough matchup for sure. I don't know if like their quarterback competition or what they have a quarterback really is like overly concerning, right, for the rest of the division. That's just going to be, hey, it's a Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh Steelers football team. So whoever the quarterback is, whether it's the anonymous source or if it's Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, they're going to be a tough out, right? Because they make every game really ugly. The Ravens, yeah, I would have to say that they kind of have that like slight advantage over the Cincinnati Bengals just because like they've been doing it a little bit more consistently, and Lamar's coming off of another MVP year. But yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow being healthy, like that's a scary thought. And that'll be the biggest thing is just, if this guy stays healthy and stays on the field, then yeah, the Bengals are going to be a tough out as always. So it really is just kind of like a coin flip as far as who you're going to take in the AFC North. And again, I think the biggest thing, just like with the Bengals and all that, just, health is so important in this division, probably more so than any others, because there are no easy in-division games for them this season.
To expound this conversation out a little bit to the AFC as a whole, is there a team you think is getting maybe slept on? We know that the AFC's got a lot of good teams, but is there a team that you think is going to surprise some people this year and maybe be sneak into the playoffs or upset somebody and maybe win a division? Who might that team be for you?
I guess the two teams that I really have my eye on are both in the AFC West, and that's the Los Angeles Chargers, right, and the Denver Broncos. I really do think that those coaching staffs are the cream of the crop as far as what we do in this industry. I think they really know how to motivate their players. They know how to put teams together. And I think they know really how to put their quarterbacks in successful situations consistently. And that's really what I look at. I look at just that head coach, quarterback tandem. And right now with those two teams, they have some really good ones. And yes, some growing pains for sure with Bo Nix being a rookie, all that kind of stuff. Like it's going to happen, but he's going to have a lot of successful moments too, because Sean Payton really knows how to doctor it up for quarterbacks to be successful. And just Harbaugh, what he's done, Minter as the defensive coordinator, I just think that they're a great little match made in heaven. And then with Herbert being one of the more talented quarterbacks in the NFL, I expect them to do some good things and be a tough matchup for a lot of football teams this year.
You mentioned the name Bo Nix. We know he was just named the team starter within the last week or so here for Denver. How many of these quarterbacks, these rookie quarterbacks, do you think are going to pan out? I think that's always like the best question when it comes to this, because every year teams get, these teams tell us why they drafted the guy they drafted. I know Sean Payton was at one point talking about how he sort of baited the Vikings into taking J.J. McCarthy, and he wanted Bo Nix all along. And so you get kind of an insight into the mind of why they liked a guy, why they didn't like a guy. And they're going to tell you that they think their quarterback's going to pan out.
Of course.
But we always know that isn't always the case. Usually like there's, 4 or 5 guys in a class, maybe 2 of them become great. So as you kind of assess this class, like which ones are you looking at that you feel like are really going to emerge as the top guys in this class? And who are you maybe a little bit worried about?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's unfortunate we're not going to see JJ this year because of his injury. I mean, he looks so sharp and really probably played like the best preseason outing out of all the rookie QBs, even though it was just the way that he looked, it was really good. And, I had him ranked as my last quarterback coming out in the draft this year. So as soon as I saw him play, I was like, damn, I was wrong. He looks great. But
hey, at least you can own it, right?
I mean, hey, I own it better, I think, than a lot of other people, right? But
I do my best to do that. Sometimes I try to weasel my way out of it. But,
Hey, it's all good. Just move on, So just blame the anonymous source again. But I think for Drake May, I think really is like the one that I'm really interested to see how that pans out. Weirdly enough, I don't think Drake has played all that well in the preseason, but yet the Patriots quarterbacks have played so poorly that he actually has looked pretty good. And, I wonder if they'll actually have the courage to kind of throw him out there earlier than maybe they wanted to. But, he's definitely a curious one that I want to see. Just, I know he has the talent. He's got the physical tools for it. Hasn't really put it together a ton in college consistently. But at the same time, like, he's got that raw talent. He's probably making some wow throws every day in practice. And it's kind of hard to pull back, when you get that excitement, when you see those moments, right? Caleb Williams, of course, with his talent, you're excited to see what they do. Again, another division for him, right, to kind of be thrown in there. And with high expectations, everyone's thinking that he could be the next CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud really just, I think, messed up everybody in our expectations for rookie QBs. But Caleb does have a similar amount of experience and reps, right, that CJ did. And they surrounded him with tremendous talent. So very eerily similar with like how they kind of built these teams. So Caleb will be another interesting one that I'll be keep my eye on. And Jaden Daniels just seems like a vet already. It's just so strange when I watch him on film. He looks like a guy that's been out there for 10 years already, with just how collected he is and how decisive he is with his decisions and just how confident he plays. So, it's really going to be fun to watch. I think it's safe to say that, 50% of them will ultimately have an extended career in the NFL as the starter. I think that's fair, but, I'm always optimistic that all of these guys will turn out as great players and really be the next great generation of quarterbacks to lead us into the future.
You mentioned comping quarterbacks. I'm curious, when you came out, were you comped to anybody that you remember? Were they just saying you were going to be like your dad? Like what were they saying about you?
No, you know what? I wasn't even like worth even evaluating. So there was no comp to be had, man. They were just like, we'll bring him in for camp and see what he does. And, hey, it all worked out well for me. It really did. Had some tough moments, man. Of course I reflect on it and like could have played better in a lot of other situations, but I just didn't get it done at times, and that's okay. So, but it's unbelievable, this game. And just when it goes well, damn, it is awesome. And when it goes bad, man, it's rough. But, at the same time, you're just like, I can't get enough of it. Got to keep going and keep doing this. And for these young rookies, the great thing is that they have so many reps in college.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing. Everyone was like, oh, like he's old. He's 24. It's like, yeah, he's a man already. Good for him. He's going into a man's league. I don't know why that was a negative connotation this year out of the draft for some of the guys that were 23, 24 years old. But I'm excited to watch all these guys. And luckily, I think they found some great fits with the coaches, too, that drafted them.
There's probably a lot of Cleveland fans saying that about the older quarterbacks, because we remember Brandon Weeden very well here and how he was like 28 when he came out, and it did not work out very well for him here. So
yeah. He was a unique situation, but he was a good football player. He knew what he was doing, man.
Let me get you out of here with this, because again, I'm assuming we'll catch up at some point down the line here, but it'll be during the season.
Yeah.
So I want to pick your brain, get something in stone. What is your Super Bowl prediction? What matchup are you sort of rolling with? I don't want to. I know you maybe you guys are going to do this on the Sims Complete.
You
podcast.
just did that to me, man. That's unbelievable.
If I'm going to spoil it because you're going to do it on your podcast, I get it. If you have to kind of hide it, but I want to try to get it on the record here, because I'm not going to talk to you for a while.
I know, it's crazy. I really haven't even been thinking that far ahead, but like, all right, let's do it, man.
You can pick the Browns, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not going to. I'm not. I gotta see it. I'm sorry, Browns fans. The dog check, the dog pound. I need to see Deshaun, do it, first. So I just haven't seen it enough.
It's cool. It's fun.
For me, locally, man, I would really love it if like the Jets really lived up to the expectations and like really started to do it. I think, of course, like, a lot of comments have been out there about Aaron Rodgers kind of being, over the hill and all that. He doesn't have to be the Aaron Rodgers of old. He has to just be a great game manager that can throw the damn ball really, really good. And that's what he can do for this football team behind a great defense and a good skill group. So Selfishly, for me being a New Jersey guy, would love to see the Jets in there. And I'm going to throw like a sleeper in there. I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions.
Are they still a sleeper though?
I mean, I don't know.
I think feel everyone's like on them now.
Are they on them though? I feel like they're kind of not like respected quite like that. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, the Detroit, they're in there, but they're not like really picking them. So Detroit would definitely be up there for me. A true sleeper for me, I guess, in the NFC would be the Los Angeles Rams. I really still think that they have enough pieces, and if they can protect Matt Stafford consistently enough with that running game, the skill group, I really do think that they can do some work and match up and be a very difficult out for a lot of teams in the NFC.
Matt, I always appreciate these conversations, man. I can't thank you enough for joining us again on the Dog Check this week, part of the Believe Network of podcasts, and of course, airing weekly on Bally Sports Cleveland. We're gonna write your Super Bowl prediction down. Jets, Lions. I like that. Two fan bases that have long overdue for them for sure.
Yeah, let's go.
And you guys can obviously listen to Matt on his podcast he does with his dad, Phil Sims Complete Podcast. Plenty more insight where this came from Matt and his dad there, man. I appreciate you. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sorry, Dog Check, that I did not pick the Cleveland Browns. I'm rooting for you. I really do. There's a place in my heart for the Browns family for sure, but just kind of need to see a little bit more before I buy some stock into it for the Super Bowl.
We appreciate Matt. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'll be back hopefully with Eric Metcalf on hand as we get you ready for the start of the season. It's crazy. Before we know it, we're going to be talking about actual football and meaningful games, and very much looking forward to it. Thanks for watching. As always, be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and comment to the Dog Check podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back next week with plenty more. As always, go Browns.
Go Browns. Let's go.